want to do business in Africa, we no longer have to go through the Swift bank systems, the Barclays that were built off of the slave trade. We actually can use a technology that allows us to transact faster, quicker, and less fees. Africa has the highest remittance fees than any continent in the world. These are predatory practices that we can use technology to render it obsolete. I tell people it's like Uber. There was a time when trying to catch a cab was the most humiliating time in the world. Well, now we use a technology called, Uber or Lyft, and I don't have to worry about what the taxi cab driver thinks about picking up.
Actually, you still do, because we have examples where they've thrown people out of the car because they didn't want to drive somebody who's black. So black still transcends even Uber in technology.
No, I agree. This is a good thing to talk about. These technologies weren't developed by our people. So even when we talk about the Ubers and the Lyft, if we had actually used those technologies instead of trying to figure out other ways to change these things, we could have actually made these technologies. But as a byproduct of Lyft and Uber, we've actually made some of these things obsolete. Now, how about actually being engaged and actually be the makers and developers of this technology and not waiting for someone to make these changes?
I was in Los Angeles earlier this summer, and my homegirl Janiqua told me about Bitcoin for the first time, and I had no idea.
I'm sorry. You're
my homegirl
Janiqua.
Shout out to Janiqua.
Oh,
that is my high school best friend.
Don't think for a second. I was just gonna let that
I'm
one
from
just
LA.
slide by.
You're
a homegirl Janiqua. Go ahead.
Who knew about Bitcoin? Okay. And I did not know, told me about Bitcoin. I want to know, how is it accessible to the regular black folks? Because I didn't know what it was. Is it accessible to regular black folks? Is this something that you have to have a certain amount of wealth for to get Bitcoin in exchange? How does that work?
Well, I think one of the things is the misnomer is the value of Bitcoin. So oftentimes people talk about Bitcoin when it's rising in value. So now it's around $4,000 per Bitcoin. But what people don't realize, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. Just like a dollar is divisible by a penny of a dollar bill, well, Bitcoin is divisible by a millionth. So you actually can possess less than a dollar. You get caught up in these things called micropayments that people can use as a way of making people, when they click on your picture, charge less than a penny. If you did that with the current payment platforms like Visa, PayPal, just the fee to do the transaction would be too costly for you to do micropayments. With Bitcoin, since the transaction fees are almost non-existent and almost free, you can do even small payments. So you can buy $20 worth of Bitcoin. You don't have to buy the whole $4,000. So it is accessible, and I'm sorry.
No, now where do you buy your Bitcoin, number one? And number two, I just saw an article that Goldman Sachs is getting into the Bitcoin trading frenzy. So they're starting to see that this is viable for Goldman Sachs. And that kind of scares me off a little bit, because Goldman Sachs, government Sachs, likes to come in and take over things. So where do you buy Bitcoin?
So you buy Bitcoins on exchanges, or you buy them at ATMs. With our wallet product, we have an exchange partner called Uphold, and you can connect that to your bank account, and you can actually purchase Bitcoin that way. One of the biggest things that we tell people is, utilize this currency not just for a store of value, but a way you can start transacting. So we even share this with businesses. With Bitcoin, there's no chargebacks. So there's a lot of things that are advantageous for even small black business owners where the margins matter.
So, you mentioned that this is a wealth building avenue, and I'm not an aficionado on Bitcoin, so I don't really know, but most of what I'm hearing now is about using it to purchase things. How do you use Bitcoin to actually build wealth, which is a completely different dynamic?
Well, it not only is it a payment platform, we always try to do an analogy like a dollar bill is like a car. It still needs a road. It needs Visa, PayPal, the Swiss banking system. Bitcoin is the car and the road. It's actually a store of value where you can actually increase your wealth, as well as its own payment platform. You don't need a third party in order to transact with it, which is very powerful when you start talking about doing different types of transactions and the fees and the costs. So in a real way, you can store Bitcoin and it can depreciate like a commodity. So in many ways, I would liken it to like gold. People always ask, what's the value of Bitcoin? How does that determine? It's still basic supply and demand. When more people want Bitcoin than those who are willing to sell it, it goes up. When there's more people trying to sell Bitcoin than those who want to buy it, goes down. And it's a consensus. Gold is not valued because anything that it actually does, but we've agreed that gold is valuable. It's a rock. It's really just a rock. And the end of the world comes, the people with goats will do better than the people with gold. Yep. So at the end of the day, that's the store of value story.
You're going to 20 HBCUs. Where can people find out, again, where you are going?
Thank you, Roland. So we're going to be in a host of universities. You can go to iloveblackpeople.com. to follow us on tour. We have our hashtag Decolonize Your Life. We're going to be in Howard University tonight at 5 o'clock on campus with our kickoff. We're going to Morgan State tomorrow, North Carolina A&T for their homecoming. So we're going through a host of universities. Follow us. We have host committees. You can actually join in and volunteer. We want to make sure that we educate our people on this new technology. Just like the internet, we need to do a better job informing our folks how we can leverage technology to solve problems in our community.
All right, really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
All right, so we'll be back. Here's one now. Cool.